The other side is saying that a vote for Donald Trump endangers our democracy. How do you respond to that?
Before we get to his response, just look at that shirt. If you didn't think these people were already in a cult, you should now, especially after hearing this.
Communists have been lying for as long as they've ever existed. That's the idea of accuse your opponent of what you're actually doing. And the idea that Trump is a threat to democracy, we already got 4 years of Trump.
And how did that end?
49 hours declaring it a riot.
5 to 50 be advised, Capitol Police 1 advised they're trying to breach and get to the Capitol.
I copy. We have a breach of the Capitol! Breach of the Capitol!
Nothing says not being a threat to democracy quite like a mob of your supporters rioting in hopes of stalling and preventing the certification of a free and fair election. But to MAGA, this was all justified solely because their sore loser, dear leader, told them it was justified.
I had $1.96 gas. I could afford my home. I saw 4 years of Trump, and it was excellent in every way. So this idea that he's going to destroy democracy and put people away, and it's clearly completely untrue. And the idea that we are now watching Kamala, whatever it may be, asking people, please, vote for me. I'm going to fix all these things, as if she hasn't been there for the last 4 years. And I just don't understand at this point what people could possibly believe in.
People, when you go to Harris rallies, they say that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. Answer them.
Donald Trump is no threat to democracy, no more than he was when he was... Listen, we're talking about a person that's already been president. The world didn't come to an end. The United States didn't go to hell because he was president. We're talking about a person that's already been president. So all of that stuff is just rhetoric.
Aside from the delusions you must be suffering from to buy and wear a Mark Robinson for Governor shirt, we've heard this argument time and time again from MAGA since the start of the election cycle, and while there are plenty of Trump supporters willing to throw democracy away for a Trump dictatorship, there is a larger contingency that at least wants to keep the veneer of democracy alive, recognizing that arguing against one of our nation's only respectable founding principles doesn't sit well with the broader American public. There's a lot of truth to our country not being nearly as democratic as it's marketed as, but that pales in comparison to what a second Trump administration would bring about.
The Democrats are saying that this ticket, this man, is a threat to democracy. How do you respond to that?
I don't believe that to be true, especially when you have a Democratic vice president coming out and saying that people who speak should have accountability for the message that they deliver. That is not what this country is based on. Our Constitution guarantees the right to free speech to everyone. It doesn't say free correct speech. It doesn't say free speech that you like. It doesn't say free speech that I agree with. It's free speech. So I don't think that they're in a position to say that he's a threat to democracy when they want to control what is put out there.
Threat to democracy. People are saying that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. People on the other side. Tell them why you think he isn't, or if you agree.
I do not think he is, as in he already was president before and our economy was flourishing. There's actually statistical proof on that.
On the other side, people are going to say that Donald Trump's a threat to democracy. How do you respond to that?
Well, I mean, I think it's convenient to say that and try to demonize him, but I think if he's anything but a threat to democracy, I think what the Democrats are doing, and they lean socialism, I think that's a threat to democracy. So, I guess it's how you frame the question, but I think he's the man that will save democracy, in my mind. That's my opinion.
The Dems are far closer to the Republicans politically than anything even tangentially related to socialism, but conservative media and elected officials have brainwashed their voter base into thinking that any and all types of government spending, including investing in social safety nets and programs that would improve their own material conditions, are morally wrong and should be opposed at all costs. The Republicans know their policies are unpopular at face value, so they have to rely on the usual suspects of boogeymen like socialism, communism, culture war issues, racism, misogyny, and a litany of other scare tactics to convince and trick voters into thinking that they have their best interests at heart, when that couldn't be further from the truth.
A lot of people on the other side are saying that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. How do you respond to that?
The only threat I see is from the Democrats and not from the Republicans. It's pretty obvious to see that. I mean, they're spewing all their hate and hatred towards us, and we drink beer. And we drink beer. We don't lie. You know, we don't lie. So we do.
So, so where do you think that comes from? And do you think that the rhetoric on both sides has gotten too hot?
No, it's only hot on one side, and you can tell that for what it is. I mean, we got 2 assassination attempts now. So, when's enough? Two's enough.
Right. But I guess that's 2's probably too many, right? But a lot of that is coming, you know, it seems to be coming from people who supported him. So these are just disturbed people who are doing this, right?
I think it's brainwashed. Honestly, I think it's their project, not our project. It's their project. So they've always had their project.
What do you mean by? Can you elaborate on that?
You could look up the CIA websites and tell. I'm not going to get all into it, but yeah.
No, but you're saying it, so I'm curious because I hadn't heard that.
Project Ultra, yeah.
Ultra. Wait, what is that?
What's that?
What does that mean, Project Ultra?
Well, look it up. You guys can look it up. I don't want to get into it. I got a line to go.
While this Trumper and his fellow cult members continue spinning conspiracy theories about the Trump assassination attempts and whine about the deep state, this is what Trump's Republican Party is up to on the ground.
Between all of that and the frenzy to register new voters, particularly young voters who are signing up in massive numbers, according to Vote.org, particularly since Taylor Swift endorsed Kamala Harris, but are notoriously difficult to poll. And the aggressive move by Republican state parties and governors in red states and swing states to purge tens of thousands, and in the state of Texas, more than 1 million voters as fast as they can register, with conservative groups even suing local counties to try to remove voters from the rolls in up to 19 states. We are clearly in for a long and bumpy 43 days.
When limiting voters' rights, purging voter rolls, and changing election rules with the sole purpose of disenfranchising voters is a key component of your party's election strategy, you can't say that your candidate is the one supporting and enshrining democracy.
There's no universe in which changing voting procedures and rules 90 days before an election or within this window should be remotely legal. So whoever's ready to bring that as a federal lawsuit, I'm more than happy to help support it, because there's no universe in which people can be educated about how to vote in time now when you're making rules changes. It's blatant voter suppression at its most pernicious, and it's happening where we saw Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act taken away in Shelby versus Holder in 2013. So I love your show so much, but it's always important to pull all the way out and show that broader historical context of what's going on and how this is all connected 43 days before you could potentially elect a black woman president.
With just about 40 days until the presidential election, Georgia's state election board voted 3-2 to approve a controversial new rule that will require counties to hand count the ballots cast election night, which could delay the reporting of results in the key battleground state, and that means for the nation. The proposal was spearheaded by the board's pro-Trump majority, will require the hand count in addition to the customary machine count in each of Georgia's precincts. Trump praised the electoral board members last month as pit bulls fighting for honesty, transparency, and victory.
One of the most troubling aspects of this whole thing is we were told by our attorneys, the state attorney general, that we don't have the legal authority to even do this, that this is untethered to statute. And yet my colleagues decided to go ahead and pass a rule that they don't have the legal authority to pass, according to the Attorney General's office. That, to me, is the most troubling part of this.
In the key battleground state of Georgia, which was also the center of the election worker lawsuit that helped bankrupt Rudy Giuliani, election deniers had added yet another wrinkle to the process and laid the groundwork for Trump to cry foul if the election result isn't immediately available.
This comes as Trump allies in Nebraska are ramping up efforts to change the state's electoral college process to grant all votes to the statewide winner. Nebraska and Maine are the only states that split their election electoral votes by congressional district.
In Texas, over 1 million voters were purged from the state's voter roll, with Governor Greg Abbott claiming that the move was to crack down on illegal voting, despite over 450,000 of the removed voters being on the state's suspense list and still being eligible to vote, but just haven't turned in their paperwork yet. While just north in Oklahoma, Governor Kevin Stitt announced that over 450,000 voters were purged from the state system since 2021, as State Rep Mauree Taylor highlights the fact that voters aren't notified if they've been purged. And while it's necessary to keep auditing voter registries to stay up to date, celebrating purges like this can further disincentivize voters from participating in future elections, especially for marginalized and minority groups in a red state like Oklahoma. Don't believe when conservatives say they care about election integrity. All they really care about is limiting the number of people they don't want to vote so they can have a better chance at winning with their unpopular policies. It should never be this difficult to exercise your most important constitutional right.